Good day, folks. This is video number 28 in support of the 3D Experience CATIA generative shape design application. The particular functionality that we're going to be looking at here is the Revolve option for creating surfaces. When you are in generative shape design, the ribbon at the bottom of the page looks like that, and there's a surface tab. And within the surface tab, there is this group of 4 icons, and the one that we're going to be looking at is Revolve. In order to do that, you need a planar curve and an axis, but you revolve the planar curve about that axis to get an axisymmetric object, basically. Here is the dialog box for Revolve. Let's go to an example. So let me take this vertical plane, and on it I draw some spline, maybe something like that. Makes no difference. And exit. Okay. And for a reason that may not be obvious to you, I'm going to do one more thing, and that is on that plane, I will draw a line, and that line does not have to be, any particular orientation. I'll draw it like so. Okay, exit. All right. Now, let me hide this line so that you don't get distracted. Good. So when we go to we are in the surface tab. Here's the revolve option. It says, what is the profile? The profile is this. What is the axis? Now, if I don't have access, you can go actually, you can go and choose the default ones. For example, I can revolve that about let's say, the Z axis. And notice that it goes 0 to 180 degrees. If you want, you can change this, make it bigger or make it smaller. If you put 360, of course, it'll go full revolution around. This is for the other fellow. Okay. All right. That's first thing. Can I choose a different axis? Sure. I can use for example, in this case, let's try the x-axis. See what happens. It goes crazy. And when you think about it, you understand why it cannot be revolved about the x-axis. So let's go ahead and put it back. Let me go and put it back to Z. Z was fine. Okay, because the x-axis goes like this. And if you take that, trying to revolve it about, if you take this planar curve and revolve it about the x-axis, well, obviously it's not going to work. It's not going to give you a surface. Now, can I use a different direction? For example, remember I drew that line and I hit it? That's sketch number 2. So can I use for the revolution axis instead of z-axis default, sketch 2? Well, maybe, yeah, you can. And by the same token, you can change the angle, etc. So the axis has to make sense. The other thing is that, let me cancel that for a second. Okay, cancel that. So I'm going to create 2 points. For example, 1 point, let's say 1 point on a plane, 1 point like this, and another point, again, on the same plane. I will do it like that. Okay, so why did I do that? So let's go and extrude. Go back to the surface tab. You revolve it, not extrude, revolve. Here's the profile. Can I, instead of specifying the element, specifying angle, can I specify up to element? First element being this. Okay. And for the other element, yeah. Hang in there I forgot to select my axis. Let's kill this thing. Let's try it again. This is the profile. The axis, well, I'm going to choose the default, which is z-axis. You can either do it from, you can say, for the axis of revolution, you can go to z-axis. Okay, but for instead of angle, you say up to element, starting from this element, and for this one up to element to that element. The moral of the story is that you can specify the angle, or you can specify elements that goes from here, okay, goes to the other one. Let me flip those. Let me go back there, and let's cancel that. Delete this. Fine. Revolve. You look at this thing from the top, by the way, this is what you've got. Revolve, the profile is this. The axis is Z-axis. Okay. And instead of angle, I'm going to go by elements from this element to the other element. This point. Okay, so notice what happened is that that spline got revolved about the axis that I picked the default one going to there, to this element, and the other way to that, right there. Okay, you can also use planes for element, etc. But let's also go and change that to the axis that I hit. Let's see if it works. So instead of the Z-axis here, I'm going to use that sketch, which I believe it was this. Of course, you're going to get a different shape. That doesn't surprise you. It went from this element to that element. Started here, okay? Goes like this. That's pretty much it. Not hard.